Welcome to our mini episode on our top books of 2022. Well, for me, it's 2022. It might be from all time, from Dylan and Evan, who I have here with me today. In case you missed it, our mini episodes are just cute little bite-sized episodes of whatever we want to talk about. So we're talking about books today, which is like my favorite thing to talk about.
It happens.
It happens. I'm just very expressive with my hands, and I might hit the mic. So
it's our Foley,
that's it.
Our Foley that we add in there.
So while you're waiting for our full seasons to come out, we've got these mini episodes, and like I said, I'm Danielle. I didn't say that before, but I'm Danielle. I've got Dylan and Evan here with me.
Yeah.
What's up?
So let's go ahead and get into it.
And before we did this one, we did the Ted Lasso episode, which was so much fun. That was hosted by Dylan. It was a great time.
I was behind the scenes on it. It was very hard for me not to like jump in and be like, and this.
Yeah.
I was just like containing myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did tell them they almost gave a spoiler. I told them.
Yeah, we edited that out.
Yeah.
We recorded that a little bit.
It was a teeny spoiler, but still, like, I don't think people would have appreciated it. So we're gonna just go ahead. We've got like 3 books each that we're gonna just chat about, tell you a little bit about, and why they were our top books. So I'm gonna start first, and I'm gonna start with a whole series. Because
which is a little bit cheating,
because we like to break rules immediately.
Yes, these are also in no particular order because I can't rank the books. I read 58 books in 2022, and 39 of those I rated 5 stars. So
I cannot relate to that.
I can't. I can't rank them. These are just ones that I wanted to talk about.
Can we talk about that for a second? 58 books. How many?
No, 59. No, 58. You're right.
58 across
and 39,
an entire year.
39. Yeah. So
literally all she does.
The majority of it.
She stays up all night long.
Really?
Literally.
I wish I would have wrote down too, because I do also listen to audiobooks, but I think it was only like 10 of those audiobooks. 10 of those were audiobooks.
Of the 58?
Yes.
Got it.
But it still takes time. But when I drive to shoots and stuff anywhere, I would listen to them.
If we did the math on on average, how long it takes you to finish a book, so if we do 365 days divided by 58 books, it took you an average of 6.29 days to finish a single book.
And that's definitely not the average.
Really?
Yeah, because Tower of Dawn took me like 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And some books
but also some took
day.
like a day or two.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's where the average comes in.
Exactly. Yeah, so my average is that. But
Dylan, are you able to read books like that?
No, not that many.
Me
I have other things to freaking do.
Yeah.
I did read quite a bit. I read 18 last year. Which
That's pretty solid.
It's a decent amount.
Is that the most that you've read in a year?
Yeah, I've gone up every year. So like I started, I don't know, I wanted to do like 12 or no. When I first started, I actually didn't read until me and Danielle like started dating. I was like, yo, I'm gonna read 6 books this year. And that year I read like 8, and then I was like, oh, I could probably read 12. And then I read 14. And I was like, oh, I could probably read 16. So I read 16. So I think I read 18 this last year, which is a far cry from 58. But it's quite a bit for me.
I think I think if someone reads it all, that's great. But I think a nice, solid, normal goal would be like 1 book a month. So
I
like
agree.
12 books in a year. I feel like that's like a normal, like unless the book that you decide to read is like 900 pages long, then that's a different story.
Right, because then at that point you're reading potentially 3 books.
Yeah.
I think that's what my issue is. I choose books that are super long, and I think I just choose books that like I feel like I should read rather than books
like
that
I feel like yours are
really
way harder to digest.
Yeah.
Or
I do it to myself, really.
Yeah.
I read 19 books. Did I say
No
that?
one's
No,
fault
you said
except my
18,
own.
so
Yeah,
19.
19, yeah.
Well, good job.
Nice.
An extra congrats.
And then you don't keep track of how many you read.
I don't have a number for you. No, I cannot tell you. I didn't even try to figure it out. I hold on to a bunch of books, and I don't finish them, but I start
them.
Yeah. So like, I don't know how many I read cover to cover, but like, I can start a book. Like these, at one point, none of these were finished. Like they were
all mid-read.
They were all mid-read,
so you're
and
a mood reader.
I put them down.
You're
Yes,
a
I'm
mood
absolutely
reader.
a mood reader,
I
which
discovered
sucks because I don't
also-
want to be. I want to read constantly.
Yeah.
I think I just need to like get into the right one
Well,
to like prove.
I have different types of books, so I can read constantly. Like, I'm not always in the mood for like a productivity book or a self-help book or a biography, but like I might be in the mood for that in the morning, and in the afternoon I might be into like a fiction or a rom-com or something like that. And so I have typically am reading 3 books at a time, mainly so I can read any genre and still make progress on a book.
Like no matter what mood, you could find something to fit how you're feeling.
Yeah, and I pretty much will be reading 3 books at a time. So I have like, or maybe 4. So I have,
or maybe 10.
a physical copy book that I'm reading. I will have probably an ARC, which is an advanced reader copy of a ebook on my Kindle that I am reading, and then I'll have an audiobook that I'm listening to, and if I'm feeling extra adventurous, I'll also have a library book that I'm reading.
And that's super risky because like you're gonna incur some late fees if you don't finish.
No,
that
they don't have
quick enough.
zero late fees in
that's
Tangelo
nice.
Parish.
We have the same thing in St. Charles
Okay,
Parish. So
yeah, zero
cool.
late fees.
But also, she finishes them well before it's time to give them back.
Well,
so.
I mean,
Isn't it like 2 weeks?
Actually, not really. I'll usually renew it at least once. But they only give it to you for 2 weeks at a time. I thought it used to be a month. But I guess since
It
they're not
probably
doing
used
late
to be
fees,
back in the day.
Yeah, and since they're not doing late fees, they're like, yeah, we're gonna hurry this up a little bit.
And it's not like at those 2 weeks you have to give it back to
Right?
them.
No, you can renew
You just
it.
have to
Like
renew
2 more.
it.
You can renew it
Online.
forever. You can renew it online twice.
Yeah.
But you can go back. You can go if you run out of those. You can go back and renew it in person. And fun fact, once you renew it in person, then you can renew it 2 more times on the app again.
Yeah.
Oh, so it resets every time you do it.
Yeah.
in person.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you could have it forever
trick.
if you wanted, which that wouldn't be nice for other people. You should really try and read your library books and return them.
Also, PSA, use the library.
Yeah.
Library
It's
is
for
Use the
free.
so
library.
cool.
And you can request books from your library.
They
like,
will
if they
buy
don't
them
have
for
it.
you.
Yeah.
I mean, for the
I
library,
would say
but-
my success rate with that is probably 50%.
That's
Like,
strong.
I didn't hear about a book at all. Like, they didn't. And that's the thing, too, is they don't let you know, like, yeah, we're going to get it, or nah, we're not going to get this. You just have
But
to
if
wait.
they do get it for you, they automatically put it on hold
Yes,
for
yeah.
your name.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like,
It's not like you have
your
to keep
book is in.
checking
And it's
in.
like, whoa,
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
I know. It's
Shouts
really
out.
cool. It is awesome. Libraries are awesome. We really could go on forever. So let's go ahead and
Yeah.
get started. For my book number 1 that I chose, like I said, I cheated. It is a series, but we're just going to go with it anyway. We're going to ignore that fact. But it's the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, and it is a young adult fantasy. And I brought the books. If you are watching the video, you can see. And if you're not, you can listen to this, and then you can also watch our video,
Yeah.
Which can be found on YouTube.
which can be found on YouTube. But I brought the first one and the last one so you can know what you're getting yourself into. There are 8 books total. This first one is like, I want to say it's like 400.
It's like trickery. It's like, start off with
Yeah.
this little small book.
It's like Harry Potter. Like
And
Harry
then
Potter
read-
starts off digestible, and then you're just like,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
here
then
I
you
am
check
now.
out of it when you're, I've checked out of it.
Necessarily.
Yeah, so this one is 400 pages long, and
So Throne of Glass is 400
yeah,
pages
Throne of
long.
Glass is 400 pages long. The last book, Kingdom of Ash, is like 900 and some pages. The pages are so thin. They're like Bible
Would you
pages.
say they're paper thin?
LOL. No, they're less than paper thin.
It's like
Okay,
fantasy.
so
Briefly.
I'm just going to read the back because I'm terrible at summarizing books, and I'll probably, as I'm reading this, just like...
Because you forget stuff.
say my own thing.
You don't actually say
Well,
it.
also because like the first book is so different from the series as a whole. Like, so this one, we have Selena Sardothian, and she is this world-renowned assassin, which she's kind of a terrible assassin, but in the book, she's this great assassin. She starts off, she's like in this slave camp in Dovier, I think is what it's called, and then she gets, the crown prince basically comes to her and is like, you're gonna be my champion for this competition. There are like 23 killers, thieves, and warriors in a competition. It's kind of Hunger Games-y or whatever. Like, basically, the last one to live is the champion and will be the king's champion. And this is basically her out of being in this slave camp. It's like basically be in this slave camp or be in this competition. It says, let's see. Oh, but something evil dwells in the castle, and it's there to kill. When her competitors start dying one by one, Selena's fight for freedom becomes a fight for survival and a desperate quest to root out the evil before it destroys the world. And the big thing is, too, is like this is a world that used to have magic, but now magic has like been banned by the king and doesn't exist anymore.
That's cool.
Sounds like Onward.
A little bit, definitely darker.
Obviously. We're talking Pixar versus.
But yeah, definitely darker. So this series has 8 books in it. It also has a prequel, which you can Google, and people will like recommend when you should actually read that prequel. Because I wouldn't say reading it before the first book. I would say reading it, I think, after the second or the third book. But I wouldn't save it for last, and I wouldn't put it first. But anyway, it's a really good series. They literally get better as each book goes on. My favorite one, I think, is Queen of Shadows, which is the 4th one. There's just a lot of revenge, and it just makes me very happy. So.
And this one,
yeah,
it's Sarah J. Maas.
It's Sarah J. Maas.
Is
she can
it
do no wrong.
spicy though?
No, because this is the young adult.
This is young adult. Got
yeah,
it.
so she has 2 other.
Did you say that already? This is young adult.
I did say
Okay.
young adult, but that is important to clarify.
My
It is
fault.
young adult. It does not have spice. It does have, the series does have romance, but like it's safe.
PG. Yeah.
But yeah, her other 2 series are not young adult, and they are spicy. But so that's my first.
Well,
and I
books.
read that whole series last year. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, like I said, they get better. So if you read Throne of Glass and you're like, oh, that was okay, just keep going, because it gets better. As at first, I was like, man, this did not live up to the hype.
So you would say the series lives up to the
This
hype.
series lives up to the hype. Yeah, so that's Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas.
Throw a glass.
All right,
Sarah J.
Dylan, you get to talk to us about one of your top books.
Yeah, I don't have my book because I borrowed it from the library.
Yeah, he was a good citizen.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's called Shoe Dog. It was a memoir by Phil Knight, who created Nike. Nike's one of my favorite brands. I like pretty much everything that they do. They're really cool. But anyway, it was about him and his journey of starting Nike. And it was really good. I liked it a lot. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, like, to be honest.
Was it like the entrepreneurial like experience
Yeah.
that you like related to?
Yeah,
Kind of
and
like-
just like seeing how, because like, I mean, Nike is a massive brand.
Yeah.
And seeing at one point it was not. You know what I mean? Just like, I mean, everyone can assume that obviously Chick-fil-A started as one restaurant. Now it's 40 bajillion.
Yeah.
And things like that. So it's really cool to see, you know, this cat started doing this one thing and then grew and built it to what it is now.
Do you remember how it started?
So he started selling these shoes called Tigers for a company, I don't know if it was in Japan or China, but a different company. He would like sell their shoes in America, and he had like exclusivity of that. And then they kind of went around him and like cut him out. And so he was like, all right, forget you guys. And then he did his own
Just
thing.
start my own thing.
Yeah, and it was cool. So
Very cool.
I like it. You know, I definitely don't recommend it if you're not into books like that, right? It's a biography. And so like if you're not into reading biographies, it's absolutely not a book for you. If you don't like Nike, absolutely not a book for you. It's very for a niche group of people. Whereas Danielle just talked about 47 books, and they're probably.
Well, I mean, it's fantasy, so like
Yeah, but-
mine was, so like if you're not into
Some
that.
people just don't like fantasy.
Yeah.
And if
But
you don't
anyway-
like fantasy, you're not going to like a single book that I'm going to talk about. Because literally all of them.
We read to get out of the real world.
But yeah, so anyway, that's mine.
And when you were telling
One
me
book.
about it, I think I would enjoy it if I would like sit down and read it. It's not something that I would be like, yeah, I want to read that. But like the stuff you were telling me about sounded very intriguing.
It's very interesting.
So-
And I mean, they talked about how like, signing Jordan was a huge deal for the brand and for just everything in general. Because like, I think Jordan originally wanted to sign with Adidas. And like, imagine
Adidas.
what Nike would be if they didn't
Right.
have the Air Jordan line. Because I think the Air Jordan line, maybe even to this day, don't quote me on this, but like it outsold all of Nike. Like it's a huge subsidiary of theirs.
Right.
So like imagine if you would have went to Adidas, like everything would be different.
What a
Like
world
Nike
that would
may
be.
not even exist.
Yeah. Woo,
And,
what a
like,
world that would be.
at least in like the way that we see it now.
I feel like nobody, at least in this country, doesn't know what Nike is.
I would
Yeah.
say in the world. I would
But-
imagine that almost everyone in the world, with the exception of like villages and stuff that don't have access
People
to even
actually cut off
donatable
from the
things,
rest of
Yeah.
the world.
know what it is. And like Another thing I really like about just the Nike brand is like it's named after the goddess of victory, Nike.
Yeah.
Which is
That's
pretty
so cool.
What did they
Epic.
want to name it at first, or what did they name it at first?
Wait,
we should not tell people. We should read
Yeah,
the
that's
book.
a spoiler for the book.
Also, I like their slogan. It's just cool. Like it hasn't
Yeah,
changed.
just
Like,
do
just
it.
do it.
Do it.
Just
think it's really
do
cool.
it.
Just do
I
it.
definitely think it's a relatable book because I used to work at Barnes & Noble, as you guys know, and people would come up asking where the book was in the store because it was put in a strange place. I feel like it kind of rides the line between genres because it feels like a biography, it feels like a memoir, but it also feels like it could just be about
business.
sports or just
Yeah.
about business. So there was just a lot of lack of clarity on where it should be, but a lot of people would come and look for
That's
it.
so
So
interesting.
that's
That's
what
interesting.
I think it's super relatable.
Shoe Dog, check it out. Phil Knight.
Should we
About
just
Nike.
repeat the name
We
and
should.
Shoe
the
Dog.
author?
Shoe Dog.
Shoot up, Phil Knight. All
right,
right,
Evan.
Evan.
Moving on to
You're getting that in
me.
stereo.
Spatial audio.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about before, I am terrible at finishing books. Super good at starting them. Super good at imagining how fun it would be to read this book. And maybe there's something that I could do, like some self-reflection to really understand why it is that I drop off on books. Maybe it's something about like they aren't like exceeding my expectations, so I'm like not really wanting to commit my time to it or something.
Yeah. So
Or-
are you stopping these because you're not enjoying them?
I feel like most of the time, no.
You just
But they're just not doing
They're
enough
not
to
hooking
really
you.
keep
Yeah.
me in there. There are some
Yeah.
here that definitely did hook me.
Right.
And I'll talk about that, but like,
because it's like there's something that like people like adults don't understand
yeah.
is that like as kids in school we were forced to read books that we don't enjoy.
100%.
And so you take that into adulthood and you're like, I have to finish this book. I
'Cause I
started
started
reading
it.
this book. I have to finish it. Well, guess what? We're adults. We don't have time for that ish. Okay? So, like, there's not enough time in the day to be reading a book that you don't enjoy.
Yeah.
So, just
That's something you've told me multiple times.
Yeah, so
life
just-
is too short.
life is too short to read a book you're not enjoying.
Yeah.
So, just put it down and pick up another one.
Yeah.
And also, the thing with fantasy is a lot of times
World
there's-
building.
Yes.
Hate that.
And
So
so you
much
have to get
exposition.
through that before you
Yeah.
can actually get into the story.
Yeah. Well, this first one was, so it rides that line of like fantasy and sci-fi, but it's based in real life. So there was less exposition on that end, and that really did hook me. So my first book, let me grab it, is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin.
It's so
That's
pretty.
a cool cover.
Yeah, I love it. It's super cool because they actually have a QR code on the back that if you scan it with the Google Lens app, it pulls up like a augmented reality thing,
Ooh.
and it like animates the cover.
That's
So yeah,
fun.
very fancy. And the second book also does the same thing. Which
Yeah, they
I
gotta
loved.
continue that.
But yeah, this is it's called the Great Cities series. It is an urban fantasy story that follows 6 main characters, and each of them represents a borough of New York City. So it takes place in New York, and if you don't know, New York is broken up into different territories. That's not the right word, but different, just like different
neighborhoods?
Yeah. What happens at the very beginning of the book is that a kid steps off of a subway into New York City. He suddenly can't remember any of his own memories,
What?
and he is connected. He feels a connection to the city. He has become an avatar of Manhattan, and this happens. He's the only one who loses all of his memory, but other characters for the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island all at the same moment become avatars of New York City. And it's super cool. N.K. Jemisin she won, there's like a sci-fi writing award. I don't remember what it's called, but she won that for another one of her fantasy series. I love this book because it kind of takes like the ugliest parts of our society and it turns that into the enemy. Literally, they call
Like
it
the
the
villain?
enemy. That
Oh.
is the villain of the book.
So that is part of the series,
What
or is this book? Is this a standalone book?
So this is the first one, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
This was actually originally based off of a short story that she included in a book of short stories, and then it turned into this book.
Dang.
And then from this, she also wrote The World We Make, which I have started but not finished. I actually started it and then decided to put it down because I had something else and I wanted to read more.
So do each of the main characters like have a book? Is that gonna happen, or are we thinking it's
No,
or
it's
just the two
everyone's
of them?
story at one time.
Okay.
This one also takes place in New York, following those characters. I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know where the rest of the series might go.
Right.
But I think since it's called the Great Cities story, the Great Cities series, that's tough. I think it's gonna expand outside of New York. That's what I want to happen.
Okay.
There have been cities are, and it's like there's an entire book about it, so I can't explain it right now.
Yeah.
But basically,
also back to the whole New York City thing. So I said neighborhoods, but that doesn't even describe it either, because neighborhoods inside of Manhattan are like Soho, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Like
so
boroughs.
it's really, well, I mean, they are called the boroughs, but
really
it's
just
so
like
weird.
sections.
Yeah, just
because
sections.
Staten Island is not even on Manhattan.
Right.
Staten Island is separate.
And like, how do addresses work? Does it say New York City, New York, or does it say Manhattan, New York, or Queens, New York?
It might
Or Brooklyn,
just
New
say New York, but then their zip codes are like New Orleans has like 70 something 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 dash something
Right,
something
right.
something. Like there's just like a specific.
That's so confusing.
Yeah.
It's like cities within a city.
Yeah, but
Sorry, continue.
no, you're good. I'm excited because there are sections where they talk about previous cities that have already died. So like that's the main thing. The enemy is trying to kill New York.
Okay.
And by killing all of the avatars, the enemy will kill New York. And there are apparently cities that have already been killed. And New Orleans is one that has already been killed. I just want to get into that. I want to know how, and if they can save it. Like, I want them to go and save
yeah,
New
like, is she
Orleans.
going to do, like, a prequel, or?
I don't know. It would be very cool. I'm super interested in seeing what happens with that, but...
So right now there's just 2 books?
Right now there's 2 books. The second one just came out, like, 2 months ago.
Okay.
So, yeah. Still
so
in
it'll be
process.
a hot minute for the others.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
Ooh.
So that is
That
the
sounds really
Great
cool.
Cities series by N.K. Jemisin.
I like that name.
N.K. Jemisin. I, like, sometimes am okay with authors just using their initials, because people would be like, oh, that's by a woman. I'm not going to read it.
It's
But I'm
definitely...
also like, ugh, I hate that they have to do that.
They can't,
But,
they can't just have their name.
Well, I guess we're going to move on to book number 2. And I cheated a little bit again because I did 2 books in one. And so it's like a series, but it's not. Like, so the second book is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. And she's a very mainstream author right now. And some people might be like, I'm not into mainstream. Well, guess what? You should be, because you're really just missing out. So... I have here, if you're looking on the video on YouTube, I have It Ends With Us, and then there's also a follow-up, It Starts With Us. And without giving any spoilers for It Starts With Us, it basically, like I said, it's a follow-up to It Ends With Us, and it's does not follow the normal pattern of a Colleen Hoover book. It's very, like, the subject matter is, like, much lighter than all of her other books, and that's why people have said they were, like, kind of disappointed in it. But I'm like, I just really like happy endings, and, like, I like reading a bunch of fluff. So anyway, that's what I'm going to say about this one, but now I'm going to focus more on It Ends With Us. And
which came out first, right?
Yes, It Ends With Us came out, I don't know when, but I read it in, like, January of 2022. Also, I have the signed copy.
Look at that.
I didn't see her in person and get signed. I just bought it on the internet. But
So that could be
yeah.
Colleen Juver's.
Well, I got it from her website. It is legit. But yeah, so this was
ColleenJuver.com.
This was published in 2016. So anyway, it
like
ends
Hoover
with
3 O's.
yeah, Hoover. But yeah, so It Ends With Us, Colleen Hoover. This follows a girl named Lily. I think it starts off, she, like, just had to make, like, a speech at her dad's funeral, and she totally failed at it because so trigger warning,
Yes.
abuse.
I was about to ask about that.
Yeah, trigger warning, all kinds of abuse, like, basically. So, anyway, so she couldn't say nice things about her dad because he abused her mom, and so at the funeral, she just, like, I think it's been a while since I read it, but I don't think she said anything. But anyway, that's just how it starts off. But it got me hooked. And Colleen Hoover is known for her hooks. Like, you start reading and you're gone. Like, I think this took me longer than a day to read for sure, but probably no longer than a week. Lily is the main character. She meets this guy Ryle on a rooftop, and it's
a wild name.
Ryle, I know,
That's
right?
A crazy
is it
name.
Ryle or is it Kyle? Spelled like Kyle with a R. And so it's kind of like their love story, but it also jumps back in time when she was a kid, and you kind of witness some of this stuff, like with her dad abusing her mom. But basically, the biggest parts of going back in time are her and this guy named Atlas, who is this homeless kid that goes to her high school. And she writes to Ellen. That's a thing. Like, Ellen DeGeneres, like, that's like her thing. She writes to her. She never sends her anything, but like, she really enjoyed like the show. And so like, it's her diary, but she says, "Dear Ellen." And like, she writes her diary or whatever. But it is a love triangle, because you're like, man, Atlas or Ryle. And I will say that I was like, okay, something's got to happen where one of these guys messes up. Like something, and so I Googled it, and I was like, what happened?
You do that often.
I
do. Spoil them for yourself.
But I don't care.
Yeah.
So the thing is, you got to be careful. You got to be careful with Colleen Hoover, though, because her pattern is she hooks you in. She makes you feel exactly what the characters are feeling. Like, she manipulates you. Like, she will make you feel what she wants you to feel.
Wow.
And then she will have this huge plot twist. So you got to be careful with Colleen Hoover spoilers, and I did find a spoiler for November 9, one of her other books, and I still really enjoyed the book, and it wasn't like that big of a deal, but
it tampered with it a little bit.
Yeah, but I hate sad books. I don't like to cry. Like, I hate all of that, but this made me do all of those things. I mean, like, I've been through kind of stuff that's like in this book, so it was like really close to my heart, and it's not like a particularly happy story. Like, it does have a happy ending. I will never recommend the book that doesn't have a happy ending, just FYI. Like, I'll read it maybe, but I will not be like, yeah, you should totally read this book. But the acknowledgments at the end you should read, because it tells you about how, like, this story is about her mom. Like, the main character is like her mom, so it's her mom's story, and I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Anyway, so I didn't start crying until that, but a lot of people cry like throughout the whole book, because
a lot of people cry.
Yeah, a lot of people cry when they read it, but
in general,
it's so good. I just love it. I love all the Colleen Hoover books that I've read so far, but this one is the one that sticks with me the most. So that is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover.
It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover.
And It Starts With Us.
By Colleen
You'll know
Hoover.
You'll know why you should read it at the end of the book.
Colleen Hoover.
Colleen Hoover.
Well, my second book is pretty good. It is called
good.
One of Us Is Lying. I like it a lot. It's a series, and usually I'm not into series because, man, I just want to read a book and be done. However, this is a pretty good book.
Did you say the author?
Not yet, bro.
Well, I thought we were like, this book by this person.
Well, this book, One of Us Is Lying, is by Karen McManus. She has a bunch of books. I like all of her books.
Sounds familiar.
Is this a young adult?
I don't know. Sure.
I'm
Sounds
pretty sure
like
it's young adult.
Yeah.
You
probably.
might have seen the series.
On Peacock.
Yeah,
I hate it.
Yeah.
You
Pretty
watched
much.
it? It wasn't
I
good?
tried, and it was awful in every way possible.
Dang.
They took the bits of this book that I didn't like, they went
100%.
hardcore
Yeah.
in
That
the series,
Yeah,
and I'm
that
like,
sucks.
yep, this is lame-o.
So I looked it up, and it says a geek, a jock, a criminal, a princess. It's given Breakfast Club.
Yeah, it's very Breakfast Club meets Pretty Little Liars, and it's just really good. That's really all I got to say about it.
What is the premise, though?
Somebody dies, and these other people are like, yo,
Like
Who did it?
One of the main
One of
characters
them.
is a
Mhm.
culprit.
all of the main characters are a culprit.
Got it.
Like, so you've got, all right, of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
The three of us are in here. Evan dies. Me and Danielle both say we didn't do it, but one of us had to do it.
Yeah.
So one of us is lying.
One of us is lying.
So anyway, it's really
By
quite
Karen
good.
McManus.
Keep a secret
Yeah.
if one of them is dead.
And
Is
they are.
that Pretty Little Liars?
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is this red book right here.
How many are in the series?
3. One of us is lying. One of us is next. One of us is back. Bum, bum, bum.
Do you like the second one as much as the first?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Does it follow the same characters?
Yeah.
Does someone... Obviously someone dies.
Yeah.
Is it resolved?
So the resolution for the death happens in the first book.
Okay.
The second book is kind of like a different. It's the same characters,
That's
same
cool.
storyline, same everything, but just different.
Are they like, weird that this would happen to us twice?
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
It's
say
very like
that?
Stranger
Good.
Things. Like, we're here again.
Why is this happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And gives me Pretty Little Liars vibes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's how they market it. Breakfast Club meets Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah.
All right, what's your book number
That was
2,
that was
Evan?
One of Us
Oh,
is Lying by Karen McManus.
All right, Evan, what's your second one?
My second one is another series. We're just a bunch of rule breakers. Let me grab them. So my second one, like I said, is a series, and it is called The King Killer Chronicle. And the first book is called The Name of the Wind. It's by Patrick Rothfuss.
That's a hard name to say.
Rothfuss.
Patrick Rothfuss. Yeah, a lot of consonants in there.
Yeah.
This book is absolutely torn to shreds. My cat got into it, or not my cat, but a cat that I live with, one of our roommates.
Not my cat.
But
That's a thick book.
it's called The Name of the Wind. It is a very long book. It sets up a red-haired innkeeper, his young apprentice, and a scribe called the Chronicler. Thus,
Is it
the King Killer
is it important
Chronicle.
that he's a redhead?
Yeah, because he's kind of legendary.
Okay.
Um,
okay.
You learn pretty early on that this innkeeper is this like legendary figure who has apparently fallen from grace or fallen from his power
He
and
did
is now
something.
living incognito as an innkeeper in some little town.
Okay.
And he has an apprentice who he is teaching magic to, and then a chronicler comes in and realizes who he is.
So the apprentice doesn't realize who
The
he is?
apprentice does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the apprentice does, and the apprentice has his own secrets.
Oh, okay.
The chronicler says that they're going to write his story, so the King Killer Chronicle starts with The Name of the Wind, and this only takes place, in the grand scheme of it, only in one day.
Oh my.
But that
It's a
entire...
750-page day.
Is that how many it was? You looked at it?
I think it was more
Yeah.
than that.
722. 22, yeah. Very close. It takes place over one day as he kind of recounts the very beginning of his his childhood and the beginning of his schooling. This has like a magic school, which is always fun.
Yeah.
Love a good magic school. And then after that one, you get into The Wise Man's Fear.
It is a very wise
This one
man.
is bigger than
Yeah,
it
the other
is.
one.
It's like almost,
1,107
it's almost
pages.
twice
Yes.
as long.
This one is also extremely long. And
That also has Bible pages, huh?
has Bible pages too.
And there's so like the letting.
The text is
Couldn't
so
do it.
tiny. There's no way you'd be able to look at it.
I
on
bet
camera,
Tony would
but
love this.
Probably.
It's great.
Tony, listen, watch
Tony,
that book.
Who's
yeah.
Tony?
I mean, listen. I mean,
Tony's a
read that
friend.
book.
Our friend Tony, yeah.
But yeah, book 2 continues his education, kind of his quarrels that he has with his classmates. It doesn't only take place in the university, which is what it's called. He also is a musician, so there's this whole plot about him like becoming like a well-known like bard, basically. Like if you know like fantasy tropes. Like,
Yeah.
he's super
How
good.
many books
Definitely
are there?
recommend. These are the only 2 so far, and his fans absolutely hate him because the third one hasn't come out yet.
You were telling me about this, right?
Yeah.
But it's supposed to. There's supposed to be 3.
We
TBD?
we have a title,
Ah.
and that is all.
Do you have a length? 5,000 pages.
Oof,
If I had to
it's gotta
guess,
be.
if we're going by this pattern so far, it's gonna
Right,
be
like
5,000.
It's gonna be
2,000.
thick.
Yeah.
I mean 2,000.
What if he
Um,
pops out like a 100-page book and it's like,
There
you
is-
happy?
There is also a standalone novella
Right,
that
that people hate, right?
that a lot of people don't like because it has nothing to do with the main character. I haven't finished it. If that's
say.
surprising. But yeah, a lot of people were expecting it to be a continuation of the story, and it's really not. It focuses
like
on
Tower of Dawn.
one tiny character.
People got upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what we talked
Yeah,
about originally
yeah,
when
yeah.
we had this conversation. Yeah.
This is sounding vaguely familiar.
Yeah, that is the King Killer Chronicle by Patrick Rothfuss.
I wonder if he killed a king, and that's why he fell from power.
That is to be determined.
Did you wear your shirt because it has book in it, or was that just a...
No. I
This
did
is a
not. If
happy
you can't see, I
accident.
don't know
I
if
did
it's
just
even
look at
behind the
that.
thing, but yeah. It has a name,
It just says Benjamin Booker, which,
but yeah, no.
you know,
I just put a shirt on this morning.
I purposely wore my weekend is booked.
And it's all
And it has
Colleen
all
Hoover.
Colleen Hoover books on it. Moving on to our last book, which
Wow.
this time I went by the rules and it's just a book. But I'll recommend this author for all of her books.
An
But
astute
it is
observation.
Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. It is a young adult rom-com about this girl Liz. She's super quirky. I love her. She gives me like Jess from New Girl vibes, like if Jess were in high school and had red hair. And she is super, super into rom-com movies. She used to watch them with her mom growing up. Trigger warning, her mom dies. So
Is that not a
It's not
spoiler?
really a trigger
it's
warning.
not.
That's
It's
a full
not. She's
spoiler.
been dead since she was young.
Does it? Okay.
Like, and it tells you right off the bat.
Got it.
But like, I feel like a
Wow,
lot of the
that.
books that I read,
People
parents
are
are
dead.
dead. Like, not that they.
People
well,
die.
I mean, it ends with us. Her dad. It starts off. Her dad is dead. So
Her dad did.
her dad dead. Liz used to have a huge crush on this neighborhood kid, Michael, that she hung out with growing up, and he moves back into town. Like, he moved away, and then he moved back into town. So she basically teams up with this other guy, Wes, that lives in her neighborhood, that also is like in her grade, goes to her school. She's grown up with him, but he's kind of like this annoying like kid that picks on her.
He
And
likes her.
so
Now you're spoiling it.
I mean, that's just.
but
that's
so Wes agrees.
high
She's
school
like,
for you.
she asked Wes for help to make Michael like her. Basically, she's like, you know, guys, like
I see what's happening here.
Wes is a popular guy in school. Like, he's on like the baseball team, whatever. I think Michael's on the baseball team or football. I don't know. He does sports, and so she's like, you're my in. Help me, like, make him like me, and I'll give you the parking spot, because they fight over this parking spot. Like, there's just one good parking spot on the street, apparently, and they fight for it constantly. And she's like, I'll give you the parking spot. That's the deal. He's going to help her get Michael, and he gets the parking spot. And so I'm sure you guys can predict what's going to happen or whatever, and that's fine, because it's that good that even though you are pretty sure you know what's going to happen, it's still so good. Lynn Painter is like the queen of witty banter. Yeah, and she, not in this book, but she makes Ted Lasso references in another one of her books.
Respect.
Yeah.
Always.
So, but so many rom-com references, like at the beginning of each chapter, it's a quote from a rom-com. So it starts off with the prologue, and it says, I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her. And that's from Notting Hill, if you haven't seen that. Which I actually hadn't seen that when I first read this book.
Have you watched it since?
Yes.
Because of that?
Is it terrible? Because this isn't like 100
It
years
was
old.
okay.
We tried to watch an old movie, and
Well,
boy,
I watched Bridget
pulled my
Jones's
eyeballs out.
Diary because of this book, and that's a horrible movie. And knowing the sequel, like, she's not even with the dude. You know, it's like this love story. Oh, they end up together, and then in the second movie, they're not even together. I'm like, what the? This is stupid. But anyway, yeah. At the beginning of each chapter, it has a cute little quote from a rom-com, probably like a '90s rom-com, and But yeah, so really, really good. Really made me laugh out loud. I haven't marked all of the parts yet, but if you look, these are like all my favorite parts just in the first 80 pages. So
That's a
also,
lot of parts. That's a lot
yeah.
of parts that you liked.
So also, fun fact, I haven't actually literally read this book yet. I just listened to the audiobook. And as soon as I finished the audiobook, I sneakily, I was going to pick up Chipotle for me and Dylan. And Chipotle just happens to be right next to
How
the Books
convenient.
A Million. And so
That's dangerous for you.
Chipotle and Books A Million being right next to each other. But yeah, I went in and purchased this book. And I haven't read all the way through yet. I've just read through 80 pages of it. But it's like a comfort book. Also, I got these tabs because that's like the thing to do. But I kind of hate it. Because I think I would rather dog ear pages, because whenever I want to tab stuff, I never have them with me. But Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Also, she just recently announced that there is a sequel called Nothing Like the Movies coming out. I forget when, but I'm very excited for it.
Nice.
And you're going to see her at some
Yeah,
thing, huh?
at,
And you guys
Cool.
are friends on Instagram. You're our best
I know,
friends.
she always comments when I post about her books on Instagram.
What?
Yeah, she's so cool.
That is so cool.
Who knows if she'll keep doing that once she gets like really, 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 really popular, because right now she's a little bit still in the indie author category, but I feel like she's gonna blow up and then she's not gonna reply back to me anymore.
Well, you gotta
take advantage
you gotta
of
get
it
her
now.
watching this episode. Hi, Lynn.
Hey, Lynn!
Hope you enjoyed this.
I could send it to her. She probably would listen or watch. Who knows?
Great.
She's really cool. I like her a lot. I've never met her, but she just gives off great vibes. So, but I will meet her. Like Dylan said, we're going to the Steamy Lit Con.
Which is
in-
so stupid.
I don't-
They renamed it,
I know, it used to be called Rom Con.
which is what Danielle sold it to me as.
Like,
I don't even
want
want to be there.
I don't want to go to Steamy Lit.
She's going to the Smut Con.
Yeah, we're going to a
Convention.
porn fest, basically.
Oh no. No, it's
Oh.
not gonna be like that. Actually, because Sarah Adams is still gonna be there, and she does all closed door rom-coms. So.
Meaning no.
Oh yeah, closed door means no sex scenes, basically. Like it'll be
Fade
like,
to black.
Yeah. Fade to
Yeah.
black, basically, is what it is.
Cool.
So.
Wait,
yeah.
we have to say one more time. Better than the movies.
Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter.
In my mind, Lynn is short for Lyneth.
Lynette Painter.
Lynabelle. Anyway, my last book is Atomic Habits. It's a book that basically helps you get habits and be more productive and be a better you. I like it. Again, it's not really... I read books that are like not... I mean, they're for other people, right? But every book I've read that's not a rom-com, no way, no how would Danielle read it.
But I think we have a good mixture.
Yeah.
Because there could be a lot of people out there that want to read the books that you want to read and are like...
Maybe.
I definitely think Atomic Habits, along with the Shoe Dog book, that was another one that a lot of people came looking for. Like
Atomic
probably
Habits is
even
very-
more.
It's very much like it's a new year. Let me get my life together. Kind of
But
self-helpy
people-
book that is...
People talk about it all the time.
Yes.
All
Yeah,
the
I mean,
time.
it sold a gajillion copies. But anyway, it's just a really good, quote-unquote, proven way to build good habits and break bad ones, which is, sounds too good to be true. That's because it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's a great book that helps you implement these things. But, like, if you don't implement them, just like anything in life, like, you suck at doing that thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not going to implement the system, then the book sucks. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
have
like
to do
me
your
reading
part.
that, I would be like,
it's useless if you're not going to do it.
Right. Maybe that book can teach me how to finish a book.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It could.
Some of my like favorite like things that I actually like use. I mean, I try to use all of it, but realistically, like it's a whole book about implementing these things, and the goal is to get a little bit better each day instead of like going super ham and then burning out on like, oh my god, this sucks.
And like expecting immediate change.
Yeah.
And like realizing that it's a long
haul kind of thing. Yeah. And like that's it. The goal is to teach you to build a system that you can implement over time. So like one of the things that it talks about is having like an ice cube. If you put an ice cube out on the counter and outside, like in the room, it's 28 degrees. Well, it's still frozen, and every degree you go up, there appears to be no change in the ice cube. But as soon as you get to 33 degrees, you see it start to melt. And then, as you keep going, like it's melting and melting, but you saw no progress from 28 degrees to 32 degrees, but progress that had to be made to get to the 33
That's
degrees
very cool.
that like melted
Because
the ice cube.
literally to get from 28 to 32, you
had
have to go to those other
through
degrees.
Exactly.
You can't
29,
literally
30.
jump from 28 to 32. Yeah.
Right. So like it's just that's
cool
a really
metaphor.
good like
Analogy.
analogy that's like, okay, it makes sense. And a lot of books say things like that. So it's really all in what you do with a book that if it makes it good or not.
But it seems like this one has been very inspiring to like a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so. And then another one, it talks about like identity-based habits. And this is really just like a mindset shift where like you identify as what you want to become. So like, for example, if I want to become a successful businessman, well then I will identify as that, like, and that will reflect my, my habits will reflect that or start to reflect that. It's like if, for example, like let's say I want to work out, but I don't identify as someone that works out, or someone that like I identify as like, oh, I'm lazy. Well, like, yeah, you're lazy because you're telling yourself every single day that you're lazy. Whereas if you're like, oh, I'm an athlete, well, then you're going to start to train and do a little bit better at being an athlete. And that helps.
Manifesting.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And like, that's just a mindset shift that people, you know, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't get into like shifting your mindset because they think it's all bull crap. But you've got a smart brain and you've got a dumb brain.
And your dumb brain is so dumb that you could trick it
to do the things you want it to do. That is a bit from Nate Bargatze.
Yeah.
Look
He's
him
a
up.
great comedian. Good, clean
Comic.
yes.
And the last little bit is it talks about how motivation is overrated because motivation comes and goes, but like putting in practices and doing them kind of regardless is really what like is going to work. Because like, you know, you might not be motivated to get up and run, but like if it's just a part of your system and your life, you're just gonna do it, and then eventually you'll be able to run. Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yeah.
All right, Evan, what is your last book? Also the last book of this episode.
Yeah.
What
So
a pressure to have.
my last book. Yeah, I hope I can.
Live up to the
pull it
hype.
out, yeah. So my last book, following the trend of my previous books, is also fantasy.
No, I'm just kidding.
Also a series.
And I
Is
think
it
it
a
might
series?
be.
It is.
It is a series. I literally never followed the rules.
guys.
I said those are the rules, and I choose not to listen.
Let me
So
think.
my last book
Good gosh.
is the
The
largest
dictionary?
one so far. This is the Priory
Oh my
of the
goodness.
How many
Orange
pages
Tree.
is that one?
That's a very
Can
awesome
I get through
cover.
the title first, folks? The
Okay.
Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon.
Oh, the title's
gotta let
that
them know
long.
what it actually is. So there is
Night
a
in the morning.
there's a what's it called at the end? There's
Appendix?
There's multiple appendices. So it goes.
That dude brought a dictionary. His
It
favorite book is the
goes-
dictionary. I'm looking at definitions.
830 pages.
Oh, I got you
Um,
beat. Actually, I don't even. Yeah, this is the longest one. I also read the Crescent City, the 2 Crescent City books, which
Yeah.
are over 800 pages, but this one is 980.
Dang. Wow. So this is The Priory of the Orange Tree. Honestly, it's really just a masterful book. This book made me feel things that I've never felt before. It follows several characters in different corners of this fantastical world. Each chapter is a perspective shift.
Those get me.
Yeah.
I like those a lot.
I don't
Is it
always.
Is it clear?
It is.
Is it
Okay.
like Joe and then
Yeah.
and then like Beth?
Yeah,
whatever,
well, it does it in a way that, like, the beginning of the chapter will say north, and
Okay,
so we're
but
in
it
the
does
northern part of the world.
Distinguish.
And
That
then,
I'm okay with.
like,
It's like
this
if
one
we
starts with
try.
west.
It's like if we try and just put a little divider and we talking in someone else's perspective.
No,
now I'm
it's
like,
Then I'm like,
completely
no.
confused.
No,
Yeah.
no. I think it does get to the point where it swaps at the very end within the same chapter.
But
Just
at that
because,
point,
like,
you're probably used to it.
and people are right next to each other. Like,
So they're
like
just
people are in the
talking.
same scene.
Yeah.
Whereas at the beginning, they're on other sides of the world.
Yeah. Okay, so what is the plot?
So
We've been interrupting you.
yeah, you guys have. I'll just read it because it's just a really well written.
The whole book? You're gonna read the whole
thing.
book right
Yeah,
now?
right now. We're how long into this episode? So the House of Berthnet has ruled Innis for 1,000 years. Still unwed, Queen Sabran IX must conceive a daughter to protect her realm from destruction, but assassins are getting closer to her door. Ede Darian is an outsider at court. Though she has risen to the position of lady-in-waiting, she is loyal to a hidden society of mages. Ede keeps a watchful eye on Sabran, secretly protecting her with forbidden magic. Across the Dark Sea, Tanae has trained to be a dragon rider since she was a child, but she is forced to make a choice that could see her life unravel. Meanwhile, the divided East and West refuse to parley, and forces of chaos are rising from their sleep. So,
Okay, I totally forgot about our whole predicament.
yeah, what is the predicament?
Well, because I was like, man, it sounds like a bunch of epic women.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So when we were putting together the outline, I wanted to use a certain phrase to refer to these women in a great way, not in a derogatory way.
Right, yeah.
But just
but in
like
a way that would probably need to be bleeped out.
a synonym for powerful woman.
Epic.
Yeah.
The epic fella.
Someone not to be reckoned with. Danielle found this crazy.
We went down a rabbit hole of finding synonyms for this phrase. So yeah, epic, powerful.
Someone not to be trifled with.
Trifle.
But yeah, it's a book full of very powerful women and also very powerful men. But I like that it kind of it doesn't put the women to the wayside. Like
it sounds like the main characters are women.
The main characters are women. Yeah. Except for like 2 or 3 guys that are on the side, but they're
and you're in there.
Kind of
you
not
get
as
in their
important.
perspective too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have never had a book fit my reading style so well. Like I need short chapters to let me finish a chapter, decide if I want to continue. Kind of like how you're talking about in the Ted Lasso episode. Go watch that.
Yeah.
You need a short TV show that you can watch 1 or you can watch 1 or 2, but you know what you're getting into. You don't have to commit a
like for
lot
an
of time.
hour.
Yeah. But this one, like literally chapters would stop right as they felt like they needed to stop. And then
I thought you were going to say on cliffhangers.
sometimes they were
I'll do it.
cliffhangers, but like they literally hit all points of interest for me. Like the perspective changes don't usually work, but in this scenario, like it was great. There's not a single bad plot line among the different perspectives. I'm used to like if there is a perspective shift,
You're like, ugh, I
being
wanna
like,
get through
oh
this.
great, here we are back at this character, and
Messy.
I'm like, I'm bored with this plot line. I don't care about this anymore. But literally every time a chapter switched, I was like, great, we get to go back to this, and I want to know what's happening. It has powerful women, it has dragons, it has magic, and a little bit of romance, which is not what I usually go for, but I was happy for it.
I love
it was
me a good rom-com, personally. They're so good.
And like we were talking about earlier, it is a series. I don't know if it's going to go past 2, but right now there's this one, and there's another one that just came out.
That has been shipped out.
That has, literally.
How appropriate that the 3 of us did this podcast on books when the 3 of us pre-ordered books together on BarnesandNoble.com.
This is not an advertisement for them.
I actually kind of hate
Barnes & Noble. They do not need free money.
I'm
not going to get into it.
I hate their website anyway. Like I like going in there, but like.
But if the book weren't 900 pages, I would have reread it before the second one came out. I'm just very excited to jump into it.
That's why I like to mark my favorite parts.
Yeah.
So then I can just go back and read those.
That's a good point.
You could dog ear.
But the second one is a prequel, and it takes place like a few hundred years before.
Oh, dang.
So I'm excited.
What's their lifespan in these, since it's fantasy? Can they live past 100 years?
No, they have usual human life expectancies.
Okay.
So yeah, that is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon.
Samantha Shannon.
I know. I do want to say it like that.
Samantha
Shannon. Man. Okay. Well, these were 9+ great books.
Yeah.
That if you're looking for some recommendations, you've got plenty of genres to choose from and plenty of books to choose from. We also have some honorable mentions.
Rapid fire
honorable mentions.
Rapid fire. Go.
Yeah.
Dogfight.
Read the whole title.
It's
a long title.
Called Dogfight: How Apple and Google Went to War and Started a Revolution. Bum bum bum. Anyway, it's really good.
Who?
I don't know. Fred Vogelstein.
Vogelstein.
I don't know. My boy Fred wrote it, but basically about Apple and Google and like the whole iPhone Android war and all this kind of stuff. Obviously I love Apple, so it was a great book for me.
Your other honorable mention also is
Apple. It's about Tim Cook. It's Tim Cook, the genius who took Apple to the next level.
It's a Tim Cook book.
It's a Tim Cook book, but not to be confused with a cookbook written by Tim. No, but it talks about like his influence on the company and what it was like coming after somebody like Steve Jobs and like how he brought it to what it is today. Because at this point, Tim Cook has been the CEO of Apple longer than Steve Jobs was the CEO of Apple, which is wild to think about.
That is really wild.
It's also wild to think about that they are in talks of like who will his successor be.
Yeah.
Like they're like already searching and looking for that.
Wow.
So
Do you have honorable mentions? No. You have too
I
many
have
books.
them off the top of my head. My honorable mentions you can find on my Goodreads, anything that I've rated 5 stars. But just for the sake of listing out some honorable mentions, I will mention it used to be called, I think, the Steminist series by Allie Hazelwood. But I think she has since made it not a series. But Love Hypothesis.
That was a good book. I read it.
Yeah. And Love on the Brain.
Didn't read it.
Nice.
But
I
will.
actually liked Love on the Brain better than the Love Hypothesis, and I loved the Love Hypothesis.
Cool. Continuing with rapid fire honorable mentions. Dune by Frank Herbert, a classic.
Herbert.
If you like sci-fi, yeah, that is how they pronounce it. If there wasn't an R right there,
It'd be
and
Abear.
you lived in Louisiana, you would say Abear. But yeah, Dune is classic. If you haven't heard of Dune, have you been living under a rock? They just came out with the movie with Timothée Chalamet, and it's great. If you like magic and space politics, that's for you.
He said, that's for you.
And next I have American Gods by Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman's one of my all-time faves. This is similar to N.K. Jemison's City We Became, takes place in our world, but has fantastical elements to it. Basically, there is a character who finds himself, he's coming out of prison, and his life is turned upside down, and he is contacted by gods who live among us in America. My last book is Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five. This one, I haven't revisited in a long time. I literally read it in high school, and it just made such an impact on me. This book, the feeling of reading this book is what I cling to when I pick up another book.
Oh.
This is a bad thing, it sounds
the memory of how great this book was is what keeps me going.
Whoa.
So
okay.
super, super highly recommend. Honestly, didn't think about it when I was writing the original list. Maybe it would have been
Might have made it
in my list, but then I would have been following the rules by having a single book. So
Yeah, so then
I'm glad I didn't do that.
You wouldn't have been following your rules.
Yeah.
If you would have done that one.
Yeah.
Well, those were some great rapid fires. Well, thanks to Dylan and Evan for talking about books with me. This is my all-time favorite subject to talk about. Thank you guys for listening and or watching. And we'll be here next time with another mini episode,
Yep.
correct?
Yes.
2 weeks.
Yes, in 2 weeks. There'll be another mini episode and
It will feature Corey and Evan and someone
a
else.
mystery
And you.
guest. I was going to be a mystery guest.
Well,
Too late.
To talk about, are we wanting to say what we
yeah,
talking about? Or
we're
it'll
talking
be
about
talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
yeah.
Which I know
We're talking
nothing about.
all of our interests in these mini episodes.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
We're just talking about the stuff we love.
I know, that's what
But I should have talked about Apple.
We'll put you in
Next
for
time.
the next time. Well, we
I
just
mean,
had
you
Lasso.
technically did. 'cause you
Yeah,
It's
talked
on
about
Apple
so-
TV Plus.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Ka-chow.